Hello, this is Pixel Freak, and today I'm taking a look at a new release called Heroes of Loot. This is the new release of the developer Orange Pixel, which if you're familiar with Orange Pixel, you'd know they make tons of pixel art-based games. Now this is their first foray, at least that I know of, into the roguelike genre, and I think it's also their first foray into the action RPG type game as well. This game plays a lot like Gauntlet, but as I previously mentioned, it is a roguelike, so you're meant to die often and start over from the beginning all over again. The object is to get as much loot and levels up in the game as you can. When you die, you're given your score and exactly what level of the dungeon you got to, and then you're kicked out and ready to play all over again. The game mechanics themselves are pretty simple. You get your one attack button and you'll shoot some kind of a ranged weapon depending on what class you choose in the very beginning, and that weapon will upgrade over time as you gain levels and get bigger and a little bit more fancy, but also you can pick up some spells as you play the game as well, and you'll get fire and lightning, and depending on which class you are, those effects last a little bit longer or might be a little bit stronger. For the most part though, you're just using your standard attack through the majority of the game. Speaking of classes, there are 4 different choices at the beginning of the game. You have the elf, which plays as a ranger, you have the human soldier, a human wizard, and a Valkyrie. Each character varies within their abilities of 3 different attributes: strength, magic, and experience. Strength will govern how hard you hit. Magic is how long your special attacks, that being the fire and lightning, last or how strong they are. And experience is how fast you gain levels. So it does matter which character you take based on your gameplay style. Now when the game first starts out, you'll get a dungeon difficulty of 1, and you have to get farther into the dungeon, unlocking the additional 4 different layers to get bigger enemies and better loot and go further into the dungeon. Now once you've unlocked all those levels and you have a dungeon difficulty of 5, those additionally difficult monsters will show up in the beginning of the dungeon. So it does help to unlock all them because you will get better loot, but at the same time you're kind of making the game a little bit harder for you in the beginning as you unlock those dungeon difficulty levels. This game being a roguelike, it is random in every single level of the dungeon. You will never play the same one twice. Not only that, when you die, you're dead. You get to start over from the very beginning. And to make things even more interesting, this dungeon is infinite. Now, Orange Pixel has said you probably won't make it past about level 30 or so. It gets really challenging after that point, but you can go down as far as you'd like to as long as you can survive. One really awesome surprise in Heroes of Loot is that it includes a 2-player edition, or a 2-player mode. Now this allows anybody with 2 controllers that are compatible for the device that you are using. On Ouya, all you have to have is 2 of the same controller. On Android, you'll need green throttle controllers because they're the only ones that are supported for the multiplayer mode at this time. Now you can try some other controllers to see if it works, but so far Orange Pixel's saying only the green throttle controllers will work for Android. iOS, there is no support yet for any controllers that would work for 2-player mode. Hopefully in the future that'll happen, but until then, single-player mode it is. My experience with that 2-player mode is pretty awesome. I actually got my wife to play with me for a little while, and that's where I ran into just a little bit of a con. This being a roguelike game, that means that when you die for good. So when you have 2 players and one of the players is really, really good and the other one is really not as good, then you end up playing a single-player game again because the second player dies very quickly and then you're left alone for 15 levels of the dungeon. It'd be really nice to see some kind of element where I could give some of my health to another player, or the first player could give some of their health to the second player. Unfortunately, that's not there right now, but the 2-player is still a welcome addition and it's a very fun mode. What Heroes of Loot seems to be able to do really well is inspire a sense of nostalgia within the player. Something about the pixel art graphics that Orange Pixel is very famous for at this point, mixed with the chiptunes-like soundtrack and the roguelike elements with a fantasy genre, I find myself right back playing Gauntlet at 6 years old, standing on a stepping stool. While the graphics and sound effects and music are all very typical of the Orange Pixel style, very retro, very excellent, very well developed elements of the gameplay really takes the spotlight for the entirety of the experience. Clearly, the direction that Heroes of Loot has taken here is a simplistic approach in order to keep the game easy to pick up, easy to play, and just fun all the way through. The flip side to this approach is with a very simplistic design controlled with pretty much just one button, the game also gets a little bit repetitive, probably more so than I would feel comfortable with after just a few hours. Now this would have been offset a little bit had there been a few more progressional pieces like level ups that carry on, or an inventory that carries on, or possibly even some unlockable elements beyond just levels of the dungeon, maybe unlockable characters, but I wasn't able to find any of those elements. Now if I'm wrong and somebody finds something within the game, please let me know and I can adjust this review as necessary, but for now, at the release time, I wasn't able to find any of these elements, and I think that those would have been really nice for the launch of this game. Regarding the purchase model in this game, Orange Pixel's always been pretty fair about their games, and this one really isn't an exception. In the Ouya version, which that's the version I played, you get the first 2 dungeon difficulties for free. At that point, you'll either be instantly killed or you can unlock the rest of the levels permanently. It's a one-time purchase for $3. Though the Android and iOS versions could change a little bit on that price, Orange Pixels had a habit of making their games only a couple dollars to unlock, and so I would assume that this game is probably going to be no different than those. So overall, even though I think that there maybe are a few elements that could have used a little bit more depth, I think that Heroes of Loot is still an amazing roguelike, and anybody who doesn't mind picking up from the start of a game every time they play it should run out and check this one out. It's going to end up being priced at $3 or less, and for that price, for a little slice of nostalgia feeling just like Gauntlet, I think that Heroes of Loot is a non-decision to just go run out and buy. The game is fairly fantastic. I do have some reservations, but I'm still going to highly recommend this game for anybody that likes games in this genre. For that reason, I'm giving Heroes of Loot by Orange Pixel 83 pixels out of 100. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, this has been Pixel Freak.